successful. Yeah.
Put on your sorcerer's hat. If you could do three things, whether it's research, collaboration, programs, money, whatever else, what should be our next steps in research, in activities, in whatever, because obviously fire's not going to go away. So what could we do to make it, I don't know if we want to make it less frequent, but less harmful? Where would you go? What would you do? What would you suggest?
I would protect the people that are managing these forests from being sued.
From,
Being sued.
okay,
Who's being sued?
that's one.
That's one, you're right. I think of two more.
Let me explain.
When, let's say I'm a fire practitioner, and I do my best to educate myself and to prepare my landscape, and I do on the day of well, I'm going to talk about prescribed fire, but any treatment, on the day of my burn, weather conditions just get nuts. And although all the indicators, I've done all my best due diligence, and my fire escapes, there has to be a fall guy, and that's me. And I lose my job, and then everybody that associates with me or is in similar positions to me is too afraid to do what they need to do on a landscape, because they're afraid of that happening to them. And we have all these case studies that are very useful because it's important that we learn from each other for the mistakes that we're making, but it makes us as managers so afraid. I don't want to lose my job. I want to make good choices. And so instead of making a bold move and burning on a day that's actually going to make an impact on the vegetation, I'm going to burn on a cool day that's not going to get me in trouble, but it's not going to do anything for my fuel load reduction. So we're doing a lot of stuff, but it's not quite enough, not bold enough. Some places are bold enough.
That's one.
So two more.
I'm thinking of globally too, because you started out talking about this is not a PNW problem, it's not a UI problem, it's not a US problem, it's a global problem.
Well, fires are a piece of that global story, but they're just a piece. So I think that sometimes we look at climate change and we think, man, I don't want to that's like such a huge thing, like there's nothing really I can do about that. But we do need to look at what climate change is and how our impacts on that are, what those impacts we're having on them. And it's the small things. It's like making sure that the way that I vote and the way that I'm hoping my senators vote is in line with climate protection. And this is going to sound cheesy, but we just need to care for each other more so that people feel good and they're not feeling so pushed upon to choose my way. I think that a lot of these divisions of how we feel is from just people feeling so afraid. And when we start to see each other and to recognize that I see you and you believe that way and that's your choice and here's how I believe, but we can still be friends, there's a lot of power that we have as humans to motivate change without anger and fear, and that's what we've been trying. It's really not working. So I guess in that, what I would pick, I guess, would be positive encouragement of legislation that is helping climate change. That's kind of two. I might cover those two. Yeah.
Well, I guess playing off of that, I have two questions. I'm not sure if this is going to be redundant, but right now in our political climate, I feel more like it's harder than ever to have an impact on climate change and national politics and that sort of thing. So I'm wondering if you have any tips, I guess, of day-to-day being out in the world, talking to one another. I'm from here, but I live in Bonner County, Sandpoint area. We have lots of fires, and we don't have the U of I. So we have a U of I extension office, but there's a lot of there's not necessarily as much education up there. So the public interface, I guess, interfacing with a variety of political backgrounds. How, if you had success, what sort of tips of success you might have bringing up wildfires and climate change and not scaring somebody away? And then my other quick question was, when you have a disappearance of these forests that you were talking about, obviously there's going to be species that are affected, animals, insects, that kind of thing. So I'm wondering, what if there's a program or a department that sort of focuses on that, or if you talk about that in your classes?
So I'll do the second one first. So we do talk about that. There are probably people that are focusing in on those individual species things, not specifically that I'm aware of. But so those in Western Oregon, for example, we're burning this grass field, and it's a small subset of this butterfly that exists there. And butterfly is an indicator of the general ecosystem health. It's an endangered species, and we know that fire helps it rejuvenate. And so we talk about these small examples to our students because it's important that they recognize that there are such a variety of species interactions with fire and different levels of needing it. So specific research on there is some stuff, like range, for example. There's some people that are working on that for range, but I would not say that that's like our paramount focus. Talking to your neighbor, we as a human culture for such a long time relied on fire for everything, you know? Like we had to have it to cook, we had to have it to keep warm, and it was just a best friend, you know? Like fire was so friendly to us. And now we're very afraid of it. And so I think there's a lot of power in just the communication. So certainly first educating yourself and getting to the place where you are comfortable with the idea that fire is good most of the time. Not good all the time, like it's not going to be like back in, on one extreme here. But educating yourself so that you feel comfortable with that as a message. And then involving yourself in the local decisions that happen on the forest. Like there are public avenues for participation in this stuff. So Payette National Forest, for example, they have it's a coalition between landowners that originally started. This is how often these coalitions start with like people that are really anti-government. Like we're going to show you government that your choices are really bad. And then the government's like, actually, here's what we're really trying to do. Like we're just people that are trying to make best informed decisions. And they listen to their stakeholders of the people that live there. They care about that. And so there are people that work for these public lands that really are interested in hearing what people have to say. And there are ones that aren't, and that's their own problem. But getting involved that way and really informing yourself and being genuinely curious, like I would love to know what you guys are doing, and if there's any way that I can help, is there public education, like educating the second graders on like, hey, let's burn some little matchstick forest and talk about how fire is healthy. Each of us, depending on what our own specific passion is, but we can each be small educators in perseverating this better attitude toward fire. Yeah.
I kind of wonder about air quality.
Yeah, good
And
question.
I know in North Idaho, there has been agriculture burning, and then there have been restrictions on that, and when the inversions are here and that sort of thing. Do you, in controlling your fires and that sort of thing, consider that as part of, well, it sounds like maybe they pay attention to that.
Yes.
But I know that it seems like every fall, people are out there burning their slash per prescribed. What's the effect of all that
So,
with each other?
Air quality is an enormous issue. It does not feel good to not be able to breathe well. What we're coming to recognize is that we have lived in a century of uncharacteristically low smoke. We've become comfortable without there being smoke here, and we're pretty sure there was a lot more smoke before our century of less fire. These were described as the Blue Mountains after all. And they become blue because they are smoke colored. If you look at a lot of photos of historic conditions, most of them are smoky. Not just because it's bad, but like bad photo quality, but smoke has always been a part of the West. And now there are more people, and there are more people with health issues that are impacted by that smoke. It's easy to say, because it's like a catchphrase thing, like, choose your smoke. You're gonna have less, and for a shorter duration, prescribed fire smoke, or you're gonna have more and a higher duration wildfire smoke. It's not actually that much of like, I'm not gonna tell you that because we do our pile burning, now we're not gonna have wildfires, but we have to choose something, right? Not choosing is increasing
Just choosing.
our credit card debt of fuel buildup. We have a credit card debt in our country and our world, well, more our country, we'll focus on there, of fuel accumulation. And we just keep on saying, I'm not going to be the one that's going to put my career on the line. I'm not going to be the one that smokes out the community. I'm not going to do that. Someone else is going to have to choose. It's going to happen eventually. So we do have to make a choice on when that's going to happen. Now, on our prescribed fires, we do have some flexibility. We have flexibility on choosing when we burn. There are days that we recognize are going to produce more lifting of that smoke and less likely to impact the community. The other approach that people have taken, the ones, again, I'm going to call them the Payette National Forest, if they recognize that they're going to impact a homeowner, they may get that homeowner a hotel room. People in the Klamath National Forest, they burn all the time around communities, and they have rotating HEPA filters, and they will say, here's your HEPA filter for the next 3 days, or we're going to be producing smoke. So put that in your home and clear that out. HEPA filters are probably going to be more of a mainstay in school construction, so that when smoke is in the air, in the very likelihood that it is, we have an ability to have some safe places where people can get respite from that smoke. So as people that live in fire-prone areas, we start to see that there are things that we might need to apply into our lives that we haven't had to do before. And it feels like, why do I have to do this now? But it might just be a response we need to do. Yeah.
So we're going to have this be our last question.
Okay.
Yeah, these are enormous public health issues, and this is a research recommendation, I guess. So one of my kids works at Lamont Doherty Earth Institute at Columbia, and one of their requirements for all of their grants is that public health and health are required components of all science grants, period. So any cohort that they have on any science grant, my son is a geochemist, and they have, they have long-term cohorts on all science grants. And this is not small potatoes. I mean, you're talking in a little bit of frivolous language on giant public health issues.
Yes.
Across the board. And these cover worldwide from the Horn of Africa, which is experiencing giant migration issues, in large part because of drought and loss of grassland, huge migration. These are giant issues. So I think all research questions have really got to cover those giant public health issues on a long-term basis and follow cohorts of people and how those public health issues fall out.
And we have to do that in conjunction with management, with people that are going to apply those things on the ground.
That's right.
Because we have plenty of people that will be happy to research them until their face is blue. But if no one's going to apply those changes, then it's going to go nowhere. And that, right, so as a wrap up, I suppose, we have levels of interactions and abilities. It's easy with any topic that's especially one that might be close to you in a variety of ways, to feel hopeless. And when I feel that way, I focus back in on what I can do personally to affect my family and my community, and then to research what I can do globally and where that fits in. We each have different spheres of influence, and recognize what power you individually have, and to be informed, and to speak when you feel like there's a place that we're missing. At the University of Idaho, we're a public institution. we would take some feedback on stuff that you feel like needs to be covered, or we'd at least give you some information about where it is being covered. And as no one, you know, sometimes it's not comfortable to receive that critical feedback, but give it, right? Like that's what we're here for. We're here to we have our power of research and knowledge and fire, so let's make sure we're using it in the right directions, or at least informing people of what we're doing. Thank you for your time today.